Hello and welcome back to the CHGO White Sox post game. Welcome into my living room. My name is Herb Lawrence. You can follow me on Twitter at EctorWall23. The guy to my camera left is Vinnie Duber. He is a CHGO White Sox beat writer. Follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. The show you can follow on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. And our regular partner, Sean Anderson, is enjoying a couple days off, a little rest and relaxation. And he's been watching this game for some reason. He was tweeting along. I mean, if I'm at home chilling, I'm not watching these White Sox at all. But you can follow Sean at Sean_W. And you hear my dog _Anderson on Twitter. He just doesn't like Sean, apparently. He doesn't like Sean watching the White Sox game today, especially after this one. The White Sox fall to the Los Angeles Angels by the score of 4-2. But that, Vinny, is just a side note to what we witnessed tonight. Shohei Ohtani, just ridiculously amazing story. I mean, I'm glad that we're alive at the same time to watch him play baseball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was getting some comments on Twitter after, my fifth or sixth, oh my God, look at Ohtani tweet of the night that was like, all right, we've had enough. Like, okay, fine, we get it. He's good kind of thing. But like, I'm not sure any of us really get how good he is. And, for him to do what he did tonight, I mean, he won the game by himself, basically. 2 home runs that accounted for 2 runs. And that was the deficit, or that was the margin of victory for the Angels. And then the pitching. He's not just a pitcher, guys. He's a really good pitcher. He's one of the best pitchers. He's one of the best hitters. I think I just saw on Twitter before we started the show, 13 homers this month for Ohtani, which ties the franchise record out there for the Angels. There are some games left, and remember, he's a pitcher. I mean, this is just out of control how good he is. You're right. It's something that we're going to look back on in 20, 30 years, and whichever young whippersnapper is sitting next to us and be like, I remember staying up till 11:45 and watching Shohei Ohtani single-handedly beat the White Sox. So, listen, it might be, it certainly isn't the outcome that White Sox fans and most of the people watching us wanted, but to be able to tune in tonight to see this, of the 7 times that your team gets to play Ohtani and he does this kind of performance, consider yourself somewhat lucky that you got to see some good entertainment tonight.
Yeah, and it's like, let me get to positives for the White Sox. Before I get into gushing about Shohei Ohtani more, let me get to the good tonight for the White Sox. Eloy Jimenez is the bright spot for the White Sox tonight. 4 hard hit balls, all of them over 100 miles per hour, 3 of them off of Shohei Ohtani. So he wasn't scared or afraid of Shohei Ohtani. You were seeing him perfectly today. Got 3 hits today, including a double, scored a run in the 9th inning where Andrew Vaughn drove him in. The bad today was Michael Kopech. He only gave up 2 runs. So,
that's good.
Yes, giving up a solo home run to Shohei Ohtani, there's no shame in that game, as we saw later on with Tuki Toussaint. But wildness, like 6 walks today, just not crisp
7,
at
I think.
all. 7. Oh, yeah. Let me check it out. Yeah, 7 walks today for Michael Kopech. His last batter he faced was his 7th walk. Only 3 strikeouts, 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, and 2 runs given up. So, run prevention, fine, but walking people is his bugaboo, and it came back to get him today again, Vinny.
I mean, it's somehow one of the worst appearances of his season, and yet it was only 2 runs. But to get only 12 outs and walk 7 guys, this is a problem for Michael Kopech, and it's been a problem all year long. What have we been talking about? Walks and homers for this guy, right? And so what did he do tonight? He walked 7 guys, and he gave up 1 really big homer to Shohei Ohtani. This is a trend. This is something that has been plaguing him throughout the season. it was pretty bad from the get-go. I mean, 31 pitches in the first inning, and then he walks three guys in the second. Thankfully, Yaz bails him out with some really nice throws down to second base to catch a couple of would-be base stealers. But yeah, not a good night for Kopech, and really after the way that he was reacting last time out when Pedro took him out more so for precautionary reasons or just preservation reasons more than anything, how somber Michael was in the post game, talking about how embarrassing it's been that he hasn't been able to pitch better or longer in games. And then to follow it up with this, you know that he's not feeling good about what he did tonight. It was a poor showing for him, and yet his team was still very much in this ball game, even all through it, with only 2 runs allowed by the starter, who had a really bad night.
And to speak to your point there, in the second inning, he walks Rengifo to start the inning off. Rengifo gets thrown out by Yasmani Grandal on a great play by Elvis Andrus blocking second base. Then he walks Wallach. Right after that happens, then Wallach in a hit and run gets thrown out by 50 feet by Yasmani Grandal. Then he walks Fletcher again, walking another guy, and then they didn't dare run Fletcher, even though he's a little bit faster than Wallach. And then Kopech gets Mickey Moniak to pop out to Berger at third base, but went 3-2 to that guy. And to speak to all the struggles and the thing I see with Michael Kopech, a theory I've been thinking about is that since he hasn't really developed a strong, like dependable number 2 pitch, his slider is really good. His curveball is really good, but he doesn't like depend on these pitches. He's mostly forcing fastball. I think he's not afraid of contact, but he wants to nibble too much because he knows that for the most part, he throws fastballs and he's tired of people, teeing him up. That one start he got against the Phillies where they were crushing him on the Reds in the 16-4 beat down to the Reds, 4 solo shots there. But in his last 3 starts, June 16th versus Seattle Mariners, 6 walks there. He only gave up 1 earned run, but only pitched 4 1/3. The next start at home versus Texas, 4 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, walks 3. Not enough length there again. And then today, same thing, 4 innings pitched. He gives up 2 earned runs and he walks 7. These things cannot happen, especially the one walk he gave to Ohtani. I know to start off the inning, it's very hard to intentionally walk somebody. But the way he pitched to Ohtani in the bottom of the third, you might as well. Only one of those pitches, the 3-0 pitch, was in the zone, and Ohtani didn't offer at it. And he pretty much just pitched all the way around him. And so if you're going to walk people, just put up the 4. And if you're going to do that, I've said this before with Pedro Grifol, Ethan Katz, and pitchers on the White Sox. If we're just going to do that thing where we're pitching around the player and not even coming close, just put the 4 up, let the man go to first and save 4 pitches for Michael Kopech, because they might have helped him out later in the game, because he could have ended on a strong note if the umpire woke up in the 5th inning where he throws a 97-mile-per-hour fastball at Shohei Ohtani's knees. It's strike 3. It's in the zone, and he misses it right there, and then subsequently Shohei gets a single. So not a good game for Michael Kopech. And the ugly part of this whole thing, the top 3 batters went a combined 1 for 12 with 8 strikeouts, 3 each for Tim Anderson and Luis Robert Jr., 2 for Andrew Benintendi. But when you have lack of production all the way throughout the lineup, but especially your first 3 hitters, it's tough to win. It's tough to win. You only score 2 runs. Yesterday scored 1. Today they scored 2. Hopefully we get 3 tomorrow, Vinny.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the same thing we keep talking about seemingly on a nightly basis at this point is the bats. And for all of the trouble that Michael Kopech had tonight, for all the guys that he put on base, he only gave up 2 runs. For the bullpen, which wasn't looking as great as it's looked in recent months, really, only gave up 2 more runs. It's a 4-2 game with nobody out in the 9th inning, and 4 runs is something that this White Sox offense has seemingly been striving for, and that was the somewhat meager total that the Angels put up tonight. You got to score more than 2 runs to win a baseball game. That's basically the case. I'm the percentage is high, in the 90s, I'm sure, in order for that outcome to happen when you score more runs than two and you win. So that's the problem. The White Sox bats, I think they only had 5 or 6 hits going into the ninth inning before they made that little rally there at the end and put a bunch of guys on base. Of course, it didn't really result in much either, but this very well could have been another one-run game for this team had that ninth inning not played out in kind of wacky fashion. But it the offense, the offense, the offense, the offense. It keeps coming back to that, and until these bats find some consistency, find some production, it's going to be this on a regular basis because that was a very abnormal outing from a White Sox starting pitcher. From what they've done, specifically the last 2 months, but really this season as a whole. Kopech has had some consistent struggles, but he's also turned in some length as well throughout the year, and certainly the other four guys have. So that was not what you are used to seeing if you're a White Sox fan from a starting pitcher, and it's still a winnable game if the bats just wake up, if the bats could just do something. So that really to me is the story. Again, obviously there was a lot to talk about in this one, and Shohei Ohtani is probably the headliner, but the story again, White Sox lose because they can't score runs.
Yeah, and I know we're harping on that, but I want to get back to Kopech. I know that these people who are White Sox front office people, coaches, management, all that stuff, probably see Kopech and most White Sox fans as a top rotation pitcher when his potential is met. And it's enticing because you see it. You see it this year. You see the 10 strikeout games with minimal walks. You see him put it all together for very few starts. And then you get these 3 clustered of starts where he doesn't even get to 5 innings. Do you think the White Sox, I know they don't have the options, but do you think the White Sox are thinking or even mulling over maybe Michael Kopech isn't a major league starter? And since he only has the four-seam fastball as his main pitch, and he uses other pitchers, not sparingly, but not as much, is he more suited for the back end of the bullpen?
I don't think they're thinking that, particularly not now at this point in his career. Obviously, his career has been going on for a while, but the actual number of games and innings that he's pitched in the major leagues would not indicate that based on the 2 full seasons that he missed. I don't think that would probably be very much of a talking point or a question because it is a big one among a lot of White Sox fans. I don't think it would be one if he hadn't spent that year in the bullpen kind of just building himself back up. That was done with a very specific purpose. I don't think it was done to say, oh, let's see what we've got in Michael Kopech, the bullpen pitcher, maybe if he's not ready to be a starter. No, that was done particularly to manage his innings and manage his workload. So a management, by the way, that is still going on, as we heard from the last time he pitched after he was taken out only after 80-some pitches. So I think he's still moving up in terms of handling that workload and being ready for that workload. He would probably tell you that he is ready for it, but I don't know if the way that the team has acted and the stuff Pedro said last week would really line up with that. That being said, they want to put him out there for every 5th day and have him go start 30 games a year. And he might get close this year, but I don't think that they are thinking of him as anything but a starting pitcher because that potential, as you mentioned, is still very much there. It's just about ironing this out, not so much of, man, they've really reached the end of the line with this guy. He's still pretty young and still, not a lot of innings, major league ones at least, on that arm.
Super chat from our guy, J Miller 3389, $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Boom, boom, boom. I'm sick and tired of Pedro's pin management and emptying of the bench for speed defense players who can't hit and put Tim on the IL or bat him 7th. I'm just going to speak to the pin management. I actually don't mind Pedro's pin management today. And as of recently, I think he's been fine. The bullpen has, for the most part, since May, performed at a good to better level. I mean, Tuki Toussaint came in, and yes, he did give up the home run to Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is kind of good, so I will forgive him for that. And then the second run comes in after a single by Mike Moustakas. But what Tuki Toussaint was given when he came in the game in the 5th inning to get the ground ball double play from Mike Moustakas and then strikeout Ward, I mean, he's strong. And Pedro saw it, and he's a good, valuable arm that can go long for a team. First runs he's given up as a White Sox were today. I mean, it's his second appearance of the White Sox, but he looked good today. He struck out 2, walked 2, but got out of a couple jams where one was self-made. The other one was he got out of Michael Kopech's. Then you see Santos was good and Raylo was solid. So I don't think his bullpen management is anything that you would complain about either tonight or as recent. If you have any complaints about his bullpen management or how he's been utilizing his bullpen.
No, I mean, I think, we kind of saw early on exactly how Pedro was going to manage this bullpen, and it does seem like he's got his guys that he goes to when they're winning, and his guys that he goes to when the game is either tied or losing, and that hasn't really changed too much. I think he has stuck with his plan of matchups and the guys that can go after those certain parts of the batting order. I think he's really been very consistent with how he's used the bullpen, which is something that some people might appreciate. But, obviously there are nights where the bullpen pitchers aren't going to get the job done. And we saw that a lot in April. We haven't seen it very much at all in May and June. But, last night with Aaron Bummer, obviously, I understand some folks are frustrated over the poor season that he's been having. But really, this bullpen has been full of guys who have gotten the job done on almost, on the vast majority of the times they've been sent out there. So, if you've got a problem with the bullpen management, I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's results based more than anything.
Yeah, and the second part of that puts him on the IL or bat him 7th. If he's hurt, yes, put him on the IL. Bat him 7th. I've been asking and advocating for that for a while now. As we talked about earlier, he's 0 for 4 today, 3 strikeouts. Didn't particularly look good today hitting the ball. There's one time he got contact with the ball as a weak grounder to the third. Rengifo takes care of him there. I don't think it's going to happen because I think it's I don't know. I don't think they're slow to move there, and it might be a good thing to be slow to move because you need to garner the players' trust and garner the players' support. And if you're going to say, "Hey Tim, you're going to get out of this," and then you drop him down to the 7th spot, I can understand how a player could say, you say I can get out of this and you got faith in me, but also you're dropping me down. But at a point, there has to be some time where you say, okay, Tim is not actively hurting the team, but he's not actively helping the team right now, especially with the bat.
I mean, listen, this is a player who not only coming into this year, but certainly even through his struggles, the White Sox consider one of the best and most important players on their team. And it just so happens that that guy with that description is having a very bad season to this point. But I mean, think about it. If this is one of the guys that they built the team around. If you've got an all-star, this guy's a 2-time all-star now, you got that guy, or an all-star, I should say, just a general one without a name attached to it, and he doesn't have a good season, you're just gonna discard him because of it's not going good right in the moment. They still believe that he can get this going, and really they don't have a choice. They've pinned their hopes to him as everything that led into this season should have shown you that they should have. So this is a star player of theirs. This is a top flight player of theirs in their mind, even if it hasn't been that way in your mind as a fan. They're sticking with him. It's obvious. You're not. What if Frank Thomas had a bad year in the middle of his career? You're just going to get rid of him? You're just going to bench him? I mean, that's the kind of impact that they believe that Tim Anderson certainly has made and can make going forward for this team. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to see him be kind of thrown away. Certainly from the roster standpoint, as Fred points out, I don't really know who you want. If you want Tim Anderson, benched or sent away or pulled out of this lineup in some regard, who are you going to put there? Because the only option right now is Zach Remillard. I mean, goes and is your everyday second baseman. As if Elvis slides over, I mean, Elvis Andrus not having a very good year either. So, there really aren't many choices from a roster standpoint. It seems that this is more of an off-season wish that people are pushing for rather than an in-season one. Listen, Tim knows that he's not doing well. Pedro knows that Tim's not doing well. I know that Tim's not doing well. Everybody does. But this is one of the guys that this lineup was built around, and he's not going away just because of a bad few months.
And I know what you're saying, but Tim Anderson, Frank Thomas?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people went, whoa, at that point. But I guess I was just trying to think back to go back to another White Sox who was the best player on his team at one point, and how you would treat him. But of course, Frank Thomas, one of the best hitters ever. Tim Anderson, though, face of the franchise, just like Frank was for a good long while there. So I think there's something to be said.
All right. After the break, we will go more in depth into what Shohei Ohtani did today, some of the feats that he accomplished today, and just overall how great he is. Because I can't talk about the White Sox when this greatness is right in my face. It's right there in my face. I can't do it. And if I do have this brightness in my face, you know what I can wear, Vinny? Shady Rays.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't see where that was
Oh.
going there for a while.
Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered from the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair they've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by the lost and broken replacement policy. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair with no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support for nonprofits partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building playsets to pediatric cancer patients, for building playsets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange them for a new pair or return them free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Shady Rays' independent sale is live right now. Go to shadyrays.com and get 50% off a single pair of sunglasses. Try yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I'm hoping I can use mine tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I mean
today was brutal, man. That was awful. I know that we saw, because the White Sox were in New York, obviously, when it was when the wildfire smoke was affecting New York so dramatically. So we were following along with that because that's where the White Sox were at the time. But to have to deal with that today, that was, I mean, I was out and about in the afternoon. That was it smelled, the whole city smelled. It was, I was starting to get a little sore throat from being out, a little headache. So. Ooh, that is no joke, and it was unpleasant.
Yeah, busted out the mask for the first time of going outside since a while, because the first time I went out to walk Ziggy, like you, I had a slight headache when I came back. I was like, I could feel it, I could smell the smoke in the air, and I hope that blows out and I don't have to deal with it again. And like you said, we can use our Shady Rays to block the sun out. And FOCO, usually we're on the set and we have FOCO donating a few awesome pieces like our Tim Anderson bobblehead, our Vinnie bobblehead, as Sean affectionately calls it. And so show them some love because you can get fitted on the best sports gear around at FOCO. Hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. It's spring and baseball season. Aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, bags, everything you need for the game. Check out foco.com or click the link in the description below for all non-pre-sale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Now to that man who started on the mound today and also batted second, and it was a designated hitter. His name is Shohei Ohtani. Tweet from Chris Kamka of NBC Sports Chicago. Shohei Ohtani, first career game with 10-plus strikeouts on the mound and a homer at the plate. He's the first player in Angels history to do it, the first American leaguer since CC Sabathia, June 21st, 2008, to do that feat. And Sarah Langs of MLB, most home run hit in a calendar month, made multiple pitching starts, MLB history. 2021, June, Shohei Ohtani, 13. 2023, June, Shohei Ohtani, 13. I repeat, please do not ever take this for granted. So the national people are just going wild, gushing over what Shohei Ohtani has done, and he deserves every adulation that he gets and more. Just like I said before, it's so pleasurable to be alive at the same time and to watch this guy do what he does, because think about all the times that Dylan Cease strikes out 10 batters. Now imagine if Dylan Cease goes to the bat and, that Cincinnati game says anything. He went 3 for 3 and hit a triple, I believe, in that game. Going to hit and getting 3 hits and two of them going over the fence. This guy is just amazing, and there's words just fail when you're describing this guy because you can use them all. Every word that says incredible, that's Shohei Ohtani, Vinny.
Well, it's funny. I was mentioning some of the reactions, that I saw some from Sox fans earlier tonight, and indeed, there is nothing that local fans or just fans in general hate more than everybody, particularly the national media, telling them how great the guy on the other team is, right? And so I understand where that frustration comes from sometimes. But another thing came to mind too, Herb. I don't know if you remember this. Post Jordan, the Bulls several years into the post dynasty era, the Bulls ran an ad campaign one year where it was basically them saying, come down to the United Center and watch all the other great players that come through, right? So there's guys that, it's a commercial and it's like, oh, I go to the Bulls games and I get to see Kobe Bryant, I get to see Kevin Garnett kind of thing. And it always made me laugh because you're like, why aren't you just advertising your team? This doesn't make any sense. But for Shohei Ohtani, for White Sox fans to be able to 6-7 times a year be able to watch that guy play, not only worth the price of admission, it's worth staying up late on a West Coast night when they're all the way out in Anaheim. It is a something that we've never seen before, that nobody has ever seen before. You could be 100 years old listening to this podcast. You're been a baseball fan for a century. You've never seen this before, and so there's a reason that that the Bulls marketing department maybe thought that was a good idea back in the day, because one of those guys, and I mean, Shohei in this case, is a reason that you would turn on a game, no matter whether your team is winning, losing. They're playing that guy. Hey, it's time to watch some not just greatness. Greatness is not the word, because it's applicable certainly, but it is just so unique, and you get to watch this one in a million thing, something that's never happened before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's just so refreshing. And he plays on a team with a guy who Mike Trout did not play tonight. Weirdly enough, Hunter Renfroe did play. There's some concern there. They look so alike. Maybe they're the same guy. But Mike Trout didn't play, and he is thought to be an all-time great. Some think he is the all-time greatest player of all time. And I know people are in the comments or listening, driving to work tomorrow, if you listen on the podcast, and you're like, Babe Ruth, you're yelling from the top of your lungs. Babe Ruth did this. He didn't. He pitched full time and hit full time, I think, for only 2 years. I believe in 1918 and 1919. I don't know. Let me get my historian here, somebody who was around back then. But yes, he only pitched and hit full time those 2 years. Shohei Ohtani's third year, I think, if it suits me right. Yeah, third year he's going to be doing this full time, and this is his walk year. I know it's not your money, Vinny. It's not my money. What I would do, the old story about Andre Dawson getting a blank check from the Cubs, I literally would do that for Shohei Ohtani. Say, brother, what do you want? Are you want 700 million? I'm good for it. Whatever you got, just put down a number. We'll work out the years. Whatever you got, because to have this guy in your building, as you said yesterday, having the people who made Pac-Man being advertised behind him every time, the money you're going to get from that, the exposure you're going to get from that. If you bring them out from the West Coast, as you were talking about yesterday, when you're in Kentucky in the East Coast time zone, if you bring him to the center of the country or to the East Coast of the country, his popularity is going to grow that much more, because people can actually stay up and watch him. Right now, we're tired as hell, and we're still talking about him only because the White Sox played about it. I'm not watching a Shohei Ohtani game if the White Sox are not playing versus him and it's not, directly in my line of sight. So yeah, he can be even more of a beast if some team decides, hey, I'm going to just pay him what he wants. What do you think, Vinny? What do you think the ballpark is going to be this offseason for his services to become somebody's ace and also best hitter?
Well, that's the thing. And I think when you're talking about the money, you say, oh my God, throw 700, 800 million. Well, people give out $400 million contracts to one guy now to do one of those two things.
Exactly.
And I mean, you look at the amount of money that the San Diego Padres have spent in recent years on players. They've spent more money than you'd spend on two, they've probably spent an equal amount on two guys that they've, or just one really, because Manny Machado keeps getting new contracts. They can spend as much money on two guys as you could on Ohtani. Ohtani's going to be a Cy Young caliber pitcher and an MVP caliber bat. That's one guy. And so if you're going to give him $750 million and you go, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. Why would you do that? Well, you'd give it to two guys. Well, maybe not you, but someone would give it to two guys. He's got that in one package. So when you're talking about the amount of money, I think that's what you got to think about. He basically is going out there getting two contracts. So, he's unbelievable. And like you said, the star power is potentially unmatched. I mean, I think you're right now. Because it's baseball, and that's how baseball is compared to football and basketball. There's just the star power isn't the same. It doesn't equate. But that whole, half the country, and certainly more than half of the baseball watching populace is asleep when he's playing. Imagine if he's on national TV every single week, multiple times a week, because he plays for, the Mets or the Phillies or whoever. So, I'm not sure who's going to get him and who's going to go get him, but certainly every team should want to go get him because he strikes as the kind of guy who would certainly be worth the investment if you're talking the relative financial terms of professional sports.
Two trivia questions before I go to a break here, Vinny, and comments our first read in this break. How many MVPs did Babe Ruth get in his career, in his illustrious career?
That's a good one. I'll say it was probably a lot, right? Like, I would guess high. I'll say 5.
1.
Wow, how about that?
The Most Valuable Player award wasn't introduced until 1931.
Okay, so it was a trick question.
It was. He won that one, and that was pretty much it.
So it was a trick question. All right, thanks.
This one's a little bit harder. This is courtesy of John Boy Media. There are 4 pitchers since 2000 that are left-handed pitchers that have won at least 200 wins, have 200 wins since the year 2000. They all are left-handed. Can you give me all 4 of these pitchers? Let me give you a hint if you need it. You get 1 hit if you need it. Kershaw is correct.
Kershaw's 1. 200 wins is a lot.
It is. 1 you don't have to go that far for. Well, 2 you don't have to go that far for, actually.
Meaning what? Like they're outside my window? Is that the idea?
They theoretically could have been a couple years ago.
How about Mark Burley then? We'll go with him.
Correct. Marcus Burley. Mark Allen Burley.
And the other one's got to be a Cub. John Lester.
John Lester is number 3.
That was my hint that there was the 2 Chicago guys. All right, so I got to come up with the other one all on my own.
Fred, your answer is incorrect. So is yours, Anthony. They both guessed for Randy Johnson. No. He had over 200 wins, not since 2000.
Right.
And this guy played for a couple teams, but he's most known for one team in particular.
Most known for one team. Thank you, Herb. What a hint.
I mean, let's see. 2 Midwest teams he played for, and then he played for an East Coast team. Is a left-handed starter. Clemens is a right-handed starter, David.
Let's go Sabathia.
CC Sabathia is the correct answer.
I did it. Wow. Yeah.
And that's just me wanting to put Mark Burley into any conversation that I have because that's how good he is. And Fred, no, not Andy Pettitte. Mark Burley's better than Andy Pettitte.
So was this just random? This didn't have anything to do with Ohtani?
Nothing to do with the game. I just wanted to say I had 2 quick trivia questions. The Babe Ruth one had to do with Ohtani. And then, yes, this one I saw the other day on while I was doing research on Reed Detmers, actually. He guessed pretty much all 4 of those guys with the help of another lefty, Patrick Sandoval, who I think the White Sox will see this series. Let's see. Tomorrow's Berea, and then I think Patrick Sandoval is the Thursday pitcher. All right, here's a ComEd read. Vinny, you ready for it?
I am.
The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
You're right, Herb. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across our beloved territory here in the land of Lincoln. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like those for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
How does that work, Vinny?
Herb, I'm glad you asked, and I'm more happy that I have the answer. It's written right here in front of me. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, project cost, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you, Herb, or
Yeah.
any of our wonderful listeners own a business, do not wait. And here's the CTA, the highlighted portion, the Chicago Transit Authority, if you will. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz.
Is that comed.com/poweringbiz, Vinny?
It is, Herb. Do not need to adjust your set or your headphones or your hearing aid or whatever it is you use. It was comed.com/poweringbiz, and you all out there should schedule it today.
CHGO is supported by a Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since
Honk honk.
1988. Thank you, Vinny. Their
You're
beer
welcome.
rosters include Goose IPA, a 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest, always in style, citrus aroma with bold hop finish. Tropical Beer Hug, dry hopped Imperial IPA, 9.9 alcohol. That's dangerously easy to drink. Trust me, it's awesome and get you right there when you need to. 312 Wheat Ale, their landmark trademark. Everybody loves the 312. I usually drink it while I'm at the studio. The Full Pocket Pills, the everyday beer. It's what the brewers at the Goose Island Beer Company are drinking.
So
My
when
favorite
Jeff
beer.
when
Go
Jeff
ahead.
Jenkins and Richie Sexton come down, that's what they drink.
Of course, our guy Corey Hart. Do do
Jer-
do 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 do.
Jeremy Burnitz and Lyle Overbay are drinking that.
Carlos Lee is drinking it, and Bob Euchre. How far can we go with these brewers?
Italian, Polish, hot dog, chorizo, brat. They're all drinking it.
And kielbasa. My favorite beer is the Matilda. I just had it recently. I was at a bar in Logan Square, and I was like, you know what? I've never tried the Matilda yet, and I was like, where's this been all my life? Literally, people. I put it on my Twitter, and I was like, this beer is the stuff. Acting like I was damn Christopher Columbus of discovering America, and people like. We've been knowing Matildas and stuff. It's like try Sophie too if you're a newbie to that, and I haven't tried Sophie either yet.
You have
But
to. I love the Sophie. So we went, as you know, we went a couple weekends ago to the Dead and Company concert at Wrigley Field. We somehow managed to secure some space inside of a nearby establishment after the show, and that's what I had. I had myself a Sophie. I could see it in the fridge down there. The bartender's like, "We don't have that, man. I don't know." And I'm like, "I'm seeing it in your fridge right there. Just give me the bottle. Just hand it to me."
Sophie so good, bartenders trying to hoard it from themselves.
That's what it
That's
is.
the tagline right there. And I was at a place called Gretel Good Burgers too, Logan Square, right out there in Armitage. Let's see. Grab an ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island Original Brew House on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or at their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer. Tomorrow's matchup for the Chicago White Sox at the Anaheim/Los Angeles Angels, it will be Jaime Barilla versus Lucas Giolito. And if you don't remember what Jaime Barilla did versus the White Sox, let me refresh you a little bit. 5 innings pitched on May 31st. He gave up 1 earned run, 3 walks, struck out 6. On the year, Jaime Barria is doing pretty well for himself. 2-2 with a 2.14 ERA. And of course, Lucas Giolito is the White Sox staff ace. Looking for a bounce back. Can the White Sox finally salvage a win out there tomorrow in Anaheim with Lucas on the bump?
I mean, he would give you as good a chance of anybody, but listen, the last 2 nights, and particularly in the Monday night game, Dylan Cease was just fantastic. And so, all these guys have been giving them chances to win. It's a matter of whether those bats are going to come alive or not. We've been watching Luis Robert Jr. do such incredible things over the last couple of months, the last few months, and on a night like tonight that everybody's going to have, even a guy who might end up in the MVP conversation or the second place conversation to the guy who we all got to watch this evening, has a night where he has 3 strikeouts and doesn't get any hits. And you can't expect him to literally do it every single day. Like we were talking about on Sunday when he was the difference in that game with the 2 home runs that he hit. So he's going to need some help. And hey, you mentioned Eloy tonight. Eloy looked fantastic. But again, consistency. These guys got to show up on a far more regular basis than they've been showing up, and they got to help Luis out.
On the day that Lucas pitched versus the Anaheim Angels at home, it was May 30th. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 earned, struck out 5, only gave up 2 walks, but he was hit pretty hard by the Anaheim Los Angeles Angels. I recall Ward hit him hard. Shohei Ohtani, of course, hit him hard for a home run, but the White Sox won that game by the score of 7-3. So Lucas does give the team a chance to win. And last time that he did take the mound for the Anaheim Angels, and to his credit, like when he goes home and plays his teams that are close to home, like the Dodgers in LA and this one, the Anaheim Angels, Lucas shows up and pitches. I would say tomorrow is a pretty large game because of the people he'll be facing. I hope Mike Trout's back in there. And then Shohei Ohtani, I think tomorrow qualifies as a large game. And if we can get Lucas Giolito to step up, he still has an outside shot as being an all-star representative, joining his teammate Luis Robert as an all-star up there in Seattle. A performance against one of the 2 best hitters in baseball and another great hitter in Mike Trout could catapult him into all-star status for next 2 weeks from now in Seattle.
Yeah, it's possible. You would probably bet against that, maybe considering that the White Sox are, record-wise where they are. That usually doesn't garner multiple all-star selections, but Lucas has been very good. It's just whether they need another pitcher on that staff, probably. Luis Robert Jr.'s kind of, I don't want to say emergence, but the fact that he's been on a hot streak here of late has kind of propelled him in front. I think even as recently as like a week ago, it was a conversation we were having, at the ballpark in the press box. Be like, oh, maybe Lucas could be the guy who goes for them. And then Luis, decided to hit a whole ton of home runs in a very short amount of time. But he's been really good. And you talk about giving the team a chance to win. He's been doing it basically every time out. He's been probably the most reliable guy that they have in terms of giving the team a chance to win. So if you're just looking for the percentages, he's probably the guy to count on tomorrow. But that being said, Dylan Cease was just excellent on Monday night and couldn't get a win out of the deal there either because the offense only scored 1 run.
And this Melissa Sage Bolenbach says, I will miss Lucas, but he needs to be traded. Playoff teams are desperate for pitching, and we might be able to get some value because Lord knows we won't give him the qualifying offer. I think they've learned their lesson on the qualifying offer, and I think if they keep Lucas Giolito, one of the things they'll keep him for is to give him the qualifying offer. I don't think that the White Sox will be making a mistake twice in that regard where they didn't offer one to Carlos Rodon. And I'm with you, Melissa, but also I want the White Sox to compete. And even though they're 13 games below the 500 mark, they're in this garbage division.
Twins keep losing.
And they're under 500 still. And now the Guardians, I think, are only half game behind them. That's the thing I worry about the most. The Guardians, not the Twins, even though the Twins' pitching staff has been solid. I think maybe you can think about trading a couple of these guys away and then thinking that you can maybe compete still because it's such a crappy division. But I would say, if I had to be put feet to the fire today, yes, I would be open to trading all these people. But one of the people I wouldn't be, I'll be resistant to be Lucas Giolito because I just think the guy is just a solid guy, firstly, and then a great pitcher, not good, great pitcher because he doesn't have premium stuff like his 2 other teammates in Michael Kopech and Dylan Cease. He has good stuff, not great stuff, but he just knows how to work it. He knows how to manipulate it. And some might say, oh, he's just doing this as a contract year. I don't care what he's doing it. He's doing it in the major leagues this year. And while some of his compatriots on his pitching staff are not doing as well, he's stepping up to the plate and doing a great job. So, yeah, I would love to have him on the team. And trading him doesn't preclude the White Sox from resigning him, as David Barista puts up. So they can trade him, and then he can just come on back. I think Scott Feldman did that with the Cubs one of those years. So I would be in for that because having Lucas on this team, especially the dearth of starting pitchers in the rotation and how well he's pitched, I would love to have him. He's a great leader for this team and a great ambassador off the field too. So yeah, I'm giving too much credit. I'm just it's 12 o'clock. I love Lucas Giolito. Whatever.
I'll bring up a couple of points, and I think one in favor of trading him or a number of other people would be, remember what Rick Hahn said the last time that he talked to us, which was, the ability for this team to make some noise in the playoffs might end up being more important than their ability to just win the division. And right now we see that they aren't really much different in the standing in the division than they were a week, a month, 2 months ago, kind of thing. They have managed to kind of stay within striking distance because the Twins keep losing. But the other thing is, though, that they're probably not going to be a very competitive playoff team if they were to make a push and win the division. All you got to do is look at how they're playing against some of these other playoff caliber teams. It's not getting the job done. So maybe that is in more a point more in favor of Rick Hahn dealing Lucas or whoever else. The other thing I will say is if what you brought up with the qualifying offer, just the difference between the situation involving Lucas and Carlos Rodon. Lucas Giolito hasn't spent a lot of time on the injured list, and Carlos Rodon had. And yes, they managed to have one very, very terrific season with Carlos Rodon where he was able to stay mostly healthy. Obviously, we'll remember how the end of that season went for him from a health standpoint. Probably barely able to make that brief start that he did in the playoff game against the Astros. But they maybe didn't have a history of health to lean on that would have pushed them over the edge in making that qualifying offer that they do with Lucas Giolito. I think if for some reason it played out that he was still on this team through the end of the season and then they had to make that decision, they'd be far more confident in making it with him because they know that they get a guy that can post every 5 days and has done that for many years in a row, as opposed to Carlos Rodon, who despite a tremendous season before they had to make that decision, had a very noteworthy and, if you want to use the word alarming or bad, whatever, history of health issues going into that decision making. So I think those two players have a very different track record as you would lead up to that conversation if it manages to get there with Lucas Giolito.
And David Barista wants to know, does Lucas know about his moniker, LGLG?
If you saw the one-on-one interview I did with him on our show for last week, I did inform him of that. He did not really have much of a reaction, so perhaps he was thinking about something else, or perhaps just didn't like that nickname. But we're probably going to keep using it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he's going to warm up to it. He's going to be trademark it soon when he's on some other team. All right, the last thing I got for you guys, and this is a big time thing. We're having a meetup next month. Cubs Sox, when they play their crosstown rivalry, will be taking over. So I think the White Sox play on the 26th of July at home at Guaranteed Rate. Go to allchgo.com, sign yourself up as a diehard member, and you get a discounted rate. Like Melissa Bolin, Sage Bolenbach has already signed up. She's a diehard member. Really appreciate her support. She'll be there kicking it with us. We're in section 529 that night. So you get a free t-shirt. It's a White Sox themed t-shirt. If you're a White Sox fan, you get a Cubs themed t-shirt because the guys from CHGO Cubs are pairing up with us. So it's a CHGO baseball takeover for the series of against the Cubs, the games at Guaranteed Rate, and the game on, I think, August 16th at Wrigley Field, 7:05 start versus the White Sox. That day you will get meetup for that one. That's a separate ticket. It's a separate price. You'll get a t-shirt in that meetup also. So go to allchgo.com and look for that on the front page. And also while you're at allchgo.com, check out Vinnie's latest articles and all his articles, allchgo.com, where you can find Vinnie Duber, the CHGO White Sox beat reporter, and follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber on the great Twitter machine. Sean Anderson, usually here. He's at Sean_W_Anderson. He is the host of CHGO, and he'll be back on Thursday. The show is at CHGO_White Sox, and my name is Herb Lawrence, Ecknerwall23 on Twitter if you want to follow me there. We'll be with you again after the White Sox win tomorrow night versus the Anaheim Angels. Even if they lose,
bold prediction. Bold prediction from Herb.
Hey, and by the way, with the pick to clicks, I won. I predicted Gavin's going to hit a home run. He became 3 bases short. He only got a single.
But he did drive in a run.
He did drive in a run. So I think I can wear the crown for one day that Gavin Sheets was the pick to click. You had Vaughn and Sean, I think, jokingly again picked Andrew Benintendi. Shut Sean. I'm still going to give him a timeout. Yeah, give him a timeout because he picked Andrew Benintendi today. So join us tomorrow evening after the White Sox versus Anaheim Angels, probably 11:20, 11:30. If we can get an 11:10 start, it'd be perfect, man. Baby, that'll be awesome. So join us for the post game. We'll be getting your breakdown and getting you set for the next game on Thursday. For Vinnie Duber, for our producer Kevin Wells, my name is Herb Lawrence. Thank you for joining us on CHGO White Sox. Peace.